The ban on plastic is necessary. It is vital. It needs to be done. Thank you.
We'll be back once again. We are still enjoying the iDebate International Championship that was hosted in Rwanda.
Thank you for your speech. I would like to welcome the second speaker from the opposition side.
I quote, Cambridge, imperialism is the policy of a country to influence other countries. Colonialism is the practice of setting up colonies and settlements in other countries. They talked about our language not being on international trade. But one question that we'll have to answer, who owns English? Uganda has its own, UK has its own, America has its own. Who owns English? Let's go back. Who owns French? French has its own, Belgium has its own, Congo has its own. Who owns French? No one. Let's go back to actually what rose that. My first speaker came here telling you, let me first go back to what actually leads to any of these interactions, because they're totally different. Before, greed of extension of land and power through political, social, and economic means was the order of the day, whereby the only way to interact during within countries was to actually influence one another so as to pull and push to get what is not owning, like what you don't own. But as a result, imperialism led to wars. Right? Because for anyone under imperialism to get out of there, you had to fight. So if you fight, we all know effects of wars, droughts, and famine, infrastructure destruction, and everything. And all that affected both those ones they are calling strong countries and those ones they are calling weak nations. And as a result, it accelerated what we call natural hazards. This putting all of us together at risk. So as countries realize that they can no longer fight. They talked about something like ancient imperialism. But let me go back to what the actual meaning, industrialization. We don't have any ancient imperialism. But imperialism is imperialism, whether ancient or modern, it is always led by greed. Then how can you actually have that too much greed when you can't sustain yourselves? I asked a question whereby they answered countries like USA, Russia, and UK. But let me tell you, USA before was a land that actually was a slave land, whereby they dumped slaves. But what if we didn't actually give them what they were asking? The industrializing countries, they industrialize only when they have raw materials. Where do they get raw materials? In Africa. If you don't choose to do so, they won't fight. They said that UK and USA, they have a lot of bases. This is to protect their interest into the countries that are there. Where do they protect those interests? Because they know, like, if they don't protect them, someone else will come and trade with us. Everyone is getting interest. China is the most populated country. The moment this, which shows that actually the reason why we are up to this, it's because China more depends on of each corporation is actually different of each bloc. We can't have the UN and still have imperialism to the UN because it's all for the rights and profits of each and everyone. So we can't have any globalization packaged into having imperialism packaged into globalization because the will and the results later, they're different. Any point? Any question, please?
How is your partnership or the so-called globalization proved not to be monopoly or like capitalistic?
Okay. How it is actually shown. In globalization, it actually exists depending on who has what to offer. In Africa, like in East African community, Rwanda has what Congo doesn't have, what Tanzania doesn't have. So it is not monopolizing because we all sit together and decide, this is what we're going to do, these are the rules, these are the words. And if you don't comply, you are free to go outside, which in imperialism was not there. So if it was not there, one had to put his own interest. So in globalization ensures interdependence, it doesn't ensure friendship. Like, this is why whenever, remember in Cabo Delgado down there, we had a French company that was there. The moment it was threatened, the only point was that France had to come down to secure their total energies, hence protecting Cabo Delgado. This is globalization. If it was imperialism, the order from France would be, if my company gets problem, you are dead, which did not happen. Totally showing globalization. Question, please.
Minding you, monopoly goes with few resources and high resources
Question,
dependently.
please.
Yes. The thing is, Isn't that specifically what monopoly means, according to your definition?
No, we have few resources and large resources depending on geographical location. Mind you, we don't have any weak nation and strong nation. Just because this is a result of still what we have as what we had in colonization. They just brought borders and everything. But actually, everyone depends. If you have a large land, doesn't mean that you are actually a strong country. What if Russia comes and trades with us? It is a very big country. We all know that. But what if it trades with us and we as a landlocked country, we say no? What will happen? They will lose. What will happen if their engineers don't work? They will lose. So they have to ensure better performance into this cooperation for them to actually win. So there is nothing like monopoly or nothing like any side effect which is negative, because we all have to pull each other's back for actually to survive the effects of what we had like before.
Thank you for your beautiful speech, and I would like to welcome the third speaker from the proposition side.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having me here. My name is Milindi Yasin. This is the final speech proposition. Starting from the last speech proposition, this guy brought something that imperialism, the cause for imperialism is greedy. And the fact he brought he didn't remove the fact that these big countries dominating poor countries is also greedy for market. These big countries are greedy for market. That's the reason they are dominating to us. This is the cause of imperialism, which is happening. This is what I'm trying to say. Also, he brought something of saying that or that these countries or these industries are going to get resources from Africa. Exploitation, the same cause or the same effect of imperialism. Imperialism also leads to exploitation, which is also what he said in his words. Also, he brought something that the bases, these military bases of these big countries are there in the countries to seek for the protection, for the interest for these big countries, not for interdependence, to seek for the protection for their own benefits. This is being imperialistic charges. What I'm trying to say is, as long as these bases are there to seek for my own interest, not there for all of us to depend on them, that's what we call imperialism. Also, they brought something that it is impossible to package globalization in imperialism. And what's repackage itself alone? Repackage means new in a present way. As long as it is in a present way, this imperialism now in a present way is globalization. So far, how do we link this? They brought a lot of advantages of globalization, that interdependence. And let me just show you that this is erosion created. My lovely judges, what I'm trying to say here as erosion is this. Let me quote the movie called The Wizard of the Oz. This Wizard of the Oz controlled people under fear and erosion because they thought he was a great person, until a little girl just pulled up a curtain, and then this curtain, they saw that he was an old man with no power, just controlled people under illusion, under erosion and his fear. Then, linking this to the motion, globalization is erosion itself. Globalization is erosion itself because it just influences in the countries making decisions. For example, I'm just giving you Rwanda dropping out second-hand crosses. What was the outcome? Some aids were banned.
We are talking about globalization as a way of interdependence. You yourself talked about it, that us as globalization means we're depending on each other, not one country. Let me give you a very simple example, okay? Your teacher has more content, your teacher has more money, your teacher has more everything, more than you. But doesn't mean that he extends his control over you as a student. You give him the job, okay? Just like how we're saying that the fact that USA is there and it has more resources and more of everything, technology and everything, doesn't mean that it has control over us. You try to bring something that is a difference between imperialism and imperialism repackaged. You talked about that imperialism is a political relationship where one country imposes authority over another. Then you try to tell us that is a different kind of imperialism. And then you told us that imperialism repackaged is extending power through industrialization and all. That is still control. That means that actually the ancient imperialism and this imperialism package you're trying to bring is actually the same ancient imperialism, just that you bring the fact of industrialization, you bring about trading, okay? So it's actually the same thing. So do not bring some confusion trying to tell us that imperialism package is something different from imperialism. And then you told us, what is the future of globalization? Let me tell you the future of globalization. Look at Rwanda. We are here. We were able to move from the effects of genocide just because of imperialism. We were able to exchange some things. We were able to give them some things and they bought some things to us too. If globalization, if it was all about imperialism, then we would have just given them. You told us that they are exploiting our materials. We're giving them raw materials. Yeah, we're giving them raw materials. Yeah, we're giving them some land. But that land is exchange for something more. We give them land, they give us machines, because that is what we need for now. That is what we're going to get. We are going to give them what we have. What do you want us to give them? Technology we do not have. We're going to give them what we have, okay? And then you came here and told us that Iceland people, they do not have these smartphones. That is what we're trying to tell you. Globalization is a choice, okay? If you do not want to trade with USA, they're not going to give them those iPhones, okay? They're not going to give them those smartphones. That is why globalization is actually a choice. If it was imperialism, then they will be forced to actually take those smartphones. But because it is not, imperialism and globalization are two different things. That is why they can choose to use their bad phones or something, and then we choose to use the phones that were willing to trade with the USA. And then you told us about Kinyarwanda. Come on, that is a very, very weak point. You told us about Kinyarwanda is not used globally. Huh? Which other languages use globally? It's only English. You know why? Because it's the medium of language. That is what most of the countries use. Why don't we use Russian language? Isn't it a big country? Why don't we use French? We use English because it's the medium of language. That is not a problem of imperialism. They do not have control over us. And we can even choose not to study that English. Because globalization is all about choice, which does not exist in imperialism. And then you told us that we do not have to, that the USA is, I asked you a question, are you sure that we are the only ones who are depending on the USA? And you told us that, yeah, they're using that way of giving us commodities as a way to extend control over us. They're not controlling us. Let me ask you a very simple question. Did the USA come and force you to go and buy Jordans? No, it didn't. They bought the products, we bought them, okay? We were not forced, which is different from your definition of imperialism. It's very different.
Question, please.
Yeah, sure.
According to your definition of globalization, which is more similar like barter trade, I want to ask you, can there be what you call interdependence if there are set penalties upon those ones that are dropping out of interdependence? Like
there's penalties imposed to countries that go out of globalization. We do not accept that, and I will not be debating on something we do not accept.
Another question. Why is the world then still divided into three T's, like first world, second world, and third world, if so far we are in what you call globalization, making us the same person?
Why is it divided as a first and...
First, second.
It's happened. The First and the Second World War happened. How else do you want us to erase that history? It's not going to be erased. That is why we are bringing what is called globalization, because it is not that imperialism that you're still thinking about.
Why are we still divided into those three T's?
In that division, it's not visible. Then how can you tell me that we have that division? I do not see it anywhere.
Maybe you framed the question in the wrong way. Why is the world still divided into three different classes? First world class, second world class, and third world class, not worlds.
Related. That is not related. We are telling you that globalization is all about interdependence of countries. And if I just gave you a very simple example, that if someone is higher than you, it doesn't mean that they don't need you actually. And if globalization exists, it's coming as a way to solve that problem, okay?
How do you define the fact that when we two are on the market and I'm dominating the market, how do you define that?
When you're dominating the market, you have more than I do.
Very good.
And that is not globalization. That is not imperialism. The fact that you have more doesn't mean that I do not have something that you're going to get from me. Thank you.
As the judge said, basically it was about convincing the judges if indeed globalization is imperialism repackaged, or rather the opposite. And so, the side that I'm about to announce did the best job at convincing the judges, and that side is the opposition side.
It's because the proposition side did not make it easy for us, but we are really happy and we'll look forward to the next. I think it's because we were, I can say, diligent, and we stuck to exactly what we knew, except the fact that the proposition side clearly had also, they knew what, they had a clear understanding, but we believe that we will structure it, and we knew exactly what went wrong and what went right.
Well, thank you for being part of the Echoes of Expression. Just as you see me, I'm here to source for you the local and international debate championships. Let's catch up every Sunday at 3 p.m. and every Wednesday at 10 a.m. I love you so much. Remember to go and pick your wonderful suit from Goshen Fashions, room M3194, Mackay Plaza. He's my designer, or is an ever. I love you so much. Bye-bye.
You realize, my opponents, the ban on plastic is necessary. It is vital. It needs to be done. Thank you.